Hello, and welcome to On the Right Track Career Stories, a video series and podcast about real people, their real careers, and real lives. I'm Jane Christopher, your host, and today we're interviewing Brooke Hunter. She's an insurance broker. Let's listen to her story. Thank you, Brooke, for joining us today and sharing your interesting insights and tips for our audience. How are you doing, Brooke?
I'm doing well, Jane. It's Friday.
Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too.
Okay, so let's talk about what you do for a living.
Well, as you said, I'm an insurance broker. And as I was reflecting on talking with you today and the audience, I thought, gosh, I have to express this in a way to people that aren't in business yet, right?
Yeah.
So what we do is we advise on risk, and then we put in place insurance for businesses, homes, cars. And then when a claim happens, which is like a car crash or a fire or a flood or a lawsuit, we're there to help our clients through it and put them back to the way they were before then.
Okay, great description. And how did you get into this?
Well, my family has a deep history in the insurance business in Canada. Having said that, having studied art history and attempted to pay rent working in a gallery, that didn't work out. And so I ended up working as a file clerk for an insurance brokerage in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. And when I was the assistant to the file clerk. Hyper glamorous, Jane. Mm-hmm. And it was through really a combination of really hard work, right? Elbow grease, mm-hmm. and ambition, mm-hmm. that I moved on upwards within that firm, ultimately working in Hong Kong and in Sydney, mm-hmm. Back to Vancouver, and ultimately in Toronto. That was through a few different companies I worked for, and ultimately I started my own business about 15 years ago.
So it sounds like insurance has been the theme for your career after your jaunt in the art world.
Indeed it has. And although now I thoroughly enjoy collecting art, it is one of my passions. Mm-hmm. On the everyday business front, it has been insurance for decades. And Jane, it's on everyday basis. It is so interesting.
Okay, talk about a typical day, if there is such a thing.
Well, I'm not sure that there is a typical day, especially because I run my own business. Anyone that is managing anything at an executive level is going to have days that are highly varied, right? Because the action changes so quickly. In terms of for anyone who would be looking at insurance brokerage as a career, I think I'd highlight out of my day the clients I talk to. And so I made some notes as to who I've talked to in the last 24 hours. So I talked to a client who is developing a gold mine in Northern Ontario, talked to a client considering an initial public offering in the United States to raise money to expand, a museum with billions of dollars of art to protect, someone who's restoring a house originally built in 1880, and how are they going to protect that against fire and water while they do so. And this afternoon, I'll be talking to someone who is developing programming to deliver in schools and the risks that are associated with that and how do they manage that. Mm-hmm. So that's really varied, and that's just the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
That I've been able
so
to.
There's a lot of interpersonal skills, a lot of communication, problem solving.
It is. When I read postings for people, mm-hmm. they say we need excellent communication skills. And what does that mean? Mm-hmm. Right? I am looking for people who have the ability to communicate clearly and concisely. In insurance, and there are many fields like this, Jane, where you need to take in vast amounts of information vast amounts of information, distill that which is essential, and express some action items out of that. So I'm attempting to define what excellent communication skills looks like in a field like insurance.
Okay, so let's talk about your work-life balance. You're still able to enjoy your art. You're reading after work. What's a week like? How do you balance your life with running a business?
Well, I have to be honest that this ebbs and flows. Some weeks I don't get as much me time, especially with so many kids around here. And other weeks I say to myself, I need to carve out that time in order to give my brain some sort of rest from that which has been intense during the day so much. So I try not to be judgmental of myself as to the choices I make, as to whether it's too much work or maybe a little too much reading. I try to, and in fact, I would looking back, try not to be so hard on myself through the journey. So that
sounds
now,
like you have autonomy. You can make that decision though to take time off if you need it at the point you are in your career.
Yes, indeed. I rarely take full time off, Jane. Owning my own business has that kind of demand to it, right?
Yeah.
And there is always an extent to which I need to be connected.
Yeah.
When I think in terms of balance, it is the balance of being able to, for example, I will, in the middle of the day, if I have to take half an hour or an hour to work out, play tennis, to reset my mind so that I am my best self when I'm back at my desk, I'll often do that to find balance. And I will encourage that in my staff as well. They're grown-ups, they're adults, and I trust them to manage their time to the best outcome.
You're a good kind of boss.
Yeah, I know.
Now, tell me what your favorite thing is about your work.
My favorite thing is, in fact, getting inside the lives of people and the inside of businesses to see, well, just like you get to do, right? Just like you get to do, hearing people's stories.
Yeah.
I get to hear stories. And not only that, I get to help them achieve their goals in a very real way, which is very satisfying. The reality is, very rarely at the end of the day do you look back in the day and go, oh, I got everything done I meant to get done. That is a very rare feeling.
Yeah.
The feeling of satisfaction, I find, is derived from, wow, I helped someone see something differently today. I helped someone achieve their goals today.
Love it.
And that could be my staff or it could be clients, but it is so satisfying, Jane.
Okay, what surprised you the most about the insurance business or being an entrepreneur?
The insurance business, when I was growing up, I said to my dad, oh, boring, right? And from what I've just described to you, it's far from it. That was surprising. It is intellectually interesting and fast-paced, and that is great fun. In terms of being an entrepreneur, it is much different than operating within a large corporation. I've done both. And as an entrepreneur, there is an element of risk-taking. You have to be just slightly crazy to be an entrepreneur and strike out on your own. Yeah. And I mean, when I was getting my business off the ground, I also was getting 2 kids, having 2 kids, and running payroll by maxing out my credit cards. And that is, it is scary. And at the same time, if one is meant that way, and I believe there are certain people that have the capacity to take that kind of crazy risk, and other people are not that way. It's not for everyone. Just as I believe that I would not have achieved the kind of success I've achieved as an entrepreneur if I had been working within a large corporate environment for the same amount of time. It's not my fit. And everybody out there has their fit that they'll find. whether that be in large corporation, freelance, starting their own business, medium corporation. It's there is an element of fit when it comes to career, and it doesn't happen right away. It really doesn't. It evolves, is how I'd characterize it.
Yeah, that's a great point for young people listening, and just to see how things unfold and put one step in front of the other.
And having said that, objectives are important. Like setting targets are important. Dreams are important. Recognizing that all of that can change. And sometimes it changes negatively. Sometimes it changes positively. Either way, you rejig your objectives, rejig your dreams, and set new ones.
Yeah.
I've done that a few times. Right?
Now, what would you tell your younger self?
Not to be so hard on myself. So I was so hard on myself, and maybe letting it flow a little more, probably, right? Because things have a way of working out. Really hard when you're 23 years old to see that, or when you're 15 years old to see that. But things do have a way of working out, and things will change. And sometimes rolling with that is okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. So having faith and trust that things are going to work out, keep taking one step in front of the other. What about specific skills for the 21st century in the business world in general? Do you have any specific skills that you would advise young people to work on?
I would hearken back to my my little rant there about communication. I can't tell you how important it is, Jane.
Yeah.
It truly, and it's not just the ability to communicate effectively in writing. It's also the ability to communicate effectively orally. And I already talked to you about information processing via the onboard computer. Yep. There's all sorts of things around ability to work within the technology that we now use every day, that those I take for granted. Those must be there. I'm going to add to it what I'll characterize as executive skills. The ability to organize, prioritize, and move something forward is so important. It's part of you being organized to be able to be your best self today. And not only that, going through what's a heading, what's a subheading, why are they useful in terms of getting your mind organized to be able to prioritize and execute. That it sounds pretty soft, Jane, but these are skills that are big things.
Okay, one last question before we wrap it up. What would you be doing if you weren't in insurance? And I think I know the answer, but because
I don't an art gallery.
Yes, that's what I thought I'd hear. You can still do that.
I can still do that, Jane. And there's the interesting thing out there is that I could have maybe 2 more careers after this.
Yeah. And I don't think you realize that when you're in high school or university or college. You don't realize that there's many chapters and there's lots of time to try different things and go in different directions and so on.
And I've hired people who work at my insurance brokerage who weren't in insurance. And insurance has been their next chapter. Yep. It is, I'd say, never too late to change direction. So I would say in the larger arc of things, having a purpose. So when you're getting up every morning and having a purpose is so very important. Now, what you're actually doing as a career will at times be fulfilling and maybe not. But change will be constant.
Yeah.
Right? These
are really great ideas, things to think about for our audience. Brooke, thank you so much for sharing your experience.
It's my pleasure.
And all the best. Take care. Thanks for your time today.
Happy Friday.
You too. Thank you very much for joining us today. If you liked the episode, give us a like, and even better, subscribe. Check out the show notes for more information about how to reach us at Right Track Education if you're interested in digging deeper about your own career prospects.